Sorry, we're closed.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back. Episode 64 of Sorry We're Closed. I am your host, Mr. Patrick James Light, and I have a very special guest today for you guys, Miss Jessica Klienshmidt. Jess, thanks for joining the show. I appreciate you coming out. I know you're a West Coast person, so the time difference can be difficult, but I appreciate you coming on.
No problem. You're the only one I'd be up early and talking to. And I'm a little upset I'm not episode 69. I would have waited for that. I 100% would have waited for that.
You know, listen, you might come back on.
Yeah, maybe. If all I have to do is just come in, like see my face, and then cool, I was part of the 69th episode.
Now let's bring you. You know, I'm sure you're friendly with Jared Carrabis and being in the baseball world.
Oh yeah, I love him.
You love that guy. So maybe we'll just have a duo. We'll bring you both on.
There you go.
Great time.
Yeah, well, both you and him are Bach Talk alumni. So that's
Bach Talk
good.
alumni. Yes.
Yeah.
I always have fun doing podcasts. For a reason, I had a great time, even more so fun doing it with you. And that's when I was like, I got to bring her on. And then you just happened to respond to a tweet last week. I don't remember what I was talking about, but I was talking about something. And you responded, and I was like, yeah, she's coming on next week. And I don't know if you know Miranda, my producer.
I've talked to her a little bit. Yeah.
She's a huge fan of yours. So she's been asking me to.
Oh my gosh. That's so nice. I don't even think my mom's a fan of my work. So that's good. Like she pretends like she'll be like, oh, I saw you on TV today. I was like, Mom, I wasn't on TV. She's like, well, I thought I'd just shoot it in the dark, but I'm like, cool.
I respect that. My 87-year-old grandmother always tries to listen to this. She has no clue what a podcast is.
Right.
She always tries to watch when I was playing baseball. And when I played for Seattle out on the West Coast, she would listen or try to watch, but she had to stay up till 2 a.m. for me to pitch. And she had no clue what she's watching. She's not a baseball fan in any capacity, but she's always just like, I thought you did great today. And I was like, I didn't play. So.
Oh yeah. my grandma would do that too. Like she'd come to my game. She said, you did really well. I was like, I struck out looking, but.
Cool. So how'd you get into baseball? I'm so curious about that.
Yeah. So I actually played baseball. I didn't know softball existed at all. So when I was about 9 or 10, my brother was playing. So I went to his game. And I think he was in farm league. So that was like pitching machine time. And when you got a hold of one of those balls, oh, it was gorgeous. Every part on the bat was a sweet spot. And so they needed a right fielder. Unbeknownst to me, I didn't realize a right fielder was the worst player on the team back in Little League. But my dad was like, hey, I'm not going to force you. He was coaching. He's like, but we need a player. And it's more or less like it'll be a scrimmage because we just need the practice. So I warm up and I throw the ball and I look at my dad and I'm like, oh shit. And he's like, oh shit. And everybody's like, oh shit. A monster was born. I had this ridiculous arm. It's the one thing that I will say. I was a defensive nut. Couldn't hit worth a shit. I was like Omar Vizquel. I just wasn't a great hitter. And so a monster was born. And then the next year it was perfect because I got drafted to the Cardinals and then later on the Cubs. And it was right when Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa were doing their race. And so just was too beautiful to not work out the way that it did. And then I just kept playing. And then by the time I was in high school, my dad was like, well, do you want to try out for the baseball team? There's also a softball team. And I was like, well, I might as well stick with the baseball because not even just from a playing perspective, but those are my boys. They were my best friends growing up. And that was scarier than anything. Not learning how to re-hit the ball was scary, but then to walk on a field with no more of my best friends there with me after 6 or 7 years of playing was scary. So I just kept doing it. And ultimately, I switched to softball and it was fine. And I did well, but like I said, didn't know how to hit because I was already a shitty hitter. And then you want to throw this ball at the hip. I'm like, what is you doing, Ashley? I don't know what you doing. And so I just kept doing it. And then obviously as time went on, you can't be a professional softball player unless you're one of 4 people in the world and make a living off of it. And obviously same thing with baseball players. There's very few, but I am a talker, as you can tell, and I love writing. And that's where I am now. And I just I view the game differently. And when I'm on the panel with Dallas Braden or Michael Morris, I know my resume is not going to or you my resume is not going to be the same as y'all's, but I don't let that intimidate me. So I like the part of my job as a journalist to ask the questions that I can't 100% say like, oh, I played Little League. I know what you're talking about, Dallas. I know what it's like to throw a perfect game, like stuff like that. So now here I am just pushing out all the content, I guess.
Content's exhausting, but it's interesting you bring that up because there's a, and I'm sure you felt it at times probably in baseball when you're in clubhouses sometimes. It's when you have these, there's a thought process amongst guys, especially when it gets to the AAA and big league level, about even listening to coaches who have never been in the big leagues. It's like, because a lot of those guys, and it's very rare. I mean, you have some special assistants who are Hall of Famers, Pedro Martinez, at least in the Boston people, Pedro Martinez, Jason Varitek. You listen to those guys. But then a lot of the minor league coaches are guys that played for a few years, but nothing crazy, or in some cases, never even made it to the big leagues.
Yeah.
And there is that stigma around it that, especially at least some of the guys that I played with, that you don't know the game unless you don't know it the way we know it. And I think it's false. Like I've come across so many different people in this game that have taught me things that never played even a second of professional baseball. Yeah. So I think that there's that stigma around it of saying like, well, you never made it to the league. Well, how could you you're wrong, I'm right type of thing. And have you come across that?
Yes and no. It's almost like a benefit though, because I can walk into the clubhouse. They know, period, I did not play Major League Baseball. So I don't have to prove myself in that regard. Mm-hmm. But I'm sitting next to 4 or 5 other writers. They probably, them and I probably have the exact same baseball experience, to be honest. And
definitely.
But they're not going to walk up to me and say, did you even play baseball? Like, you obviously know the answer. You could ask them and you don't know. But I always think about my teachers. Some of the best teachers I've ever had in my life and coaches barely played sports. My mom and dad, my mom was a huge sports junkie and my dad was too, but my dad never played the sports, but he never played sports. But he was always great. Like, he knew how to be a great mentor and a great coach without any of that experience. So I don't worry about that as much. And even now when I approach coaches, unless they tell me, like, obviously I know Bob Melvin is like a catcher nerd because of his background. But when you think of Bob Melvin, you're not always thinking about his playing career. And every player I've talked to who's worked underneath him or with him say he's probably the best manager in baseball because of the fact that in order to be a manager, it doesn't necessarily mean you were a great player. And that's how I feel too. I feel like I just view the game differently. I'm not super into like being the gritty player I am from that perspective, but it's kind of hard to explain. It's just like, there's different levels of respect. And like I said, when you see the players underneath Bob Melvin, they're not being like, well, like, what did he do in his big league career? I mean, obviously it's nothing like a Barry Bonds type of resume on Baseball Reference, but when Bob Melvin talks, you listen, and he's extremely intelligent, and vice versa. And it feels like as time goes on, we'll have more managers who have no sports experience. And I feel like it's hard to find the balance of that player who was like rock solid and a great manager. You don't really see that often. I think that's a good thing, because just for me as a woman, as a minority, I go in there and I'm not worried about it. Like, I'm not like, oh, they're going to know that I never played baseball. Like I said, they already know that, but I want them to be like, oh, she's really curious about things. And I don't want to come off and be like, well, I did make 11, 12 All-Stars, Dustin Pedroia. So why don't you just sit down and listen? Like, I'm not going to do that, So I like that I can ask them the questions, because I don't have that big league experience, and same with managers sometimes.
Yeah. Well, I think the thing with managers, and I've seen this, a lot in baseball, you talk about it in other sports too, is some of the best players in the world don't really know how they're doing it. They're just gifted athletes. They just do it. And the other guys and some of these great managers that come out of it are guys that had to learn the better way how to do it. Like, whereas, for example, like my career ended because of my mentalness, my mental, they call it mental midget in baseball. You have these things where I just couldn't get over it. And for whatever reason, I couldn't figure it out. If I was able to figure it out, maybe I would have played longer, maybe I wouldn't have. But a lot of these guys that have coached or never made it to the big leagues or bounced around a little bit, they had to learn how to get through things that maybe Mookie Betts wouldn't have to get through, or Mike Trout wouldn't have to get through. And this kind of well-roundedness makes them great managers. And the same thing goes for someone like yourself. It's like, you look at the game completely different than someone else might look at the game because of your own baseball experience, whether it's just, making the All-Stars at 11 years old or, playing in high school or playing in college. There's so many different things that you've went through that these big leaguers might not have gone through, or the people that are reading your stuff might not have gone through. So it's a unique perspective that I think you bring to the game that I'm not sure I've ever seen it anywhere else. I mean, besides you get the same run of the mill questions always from these baseball guys, these guys that come into the clubhouse. And I think you probably do a little bit different. And it's probably honestly refreshing for some of the guys to have to not answer the same freaking question.
I did get, speaking of Bob Melvin, I did get that's a good question yesterday. And I immediately text my editor. What am I doing? I DM'd Slack, whatever, Mike. And I was like, hey, just to let you know, Bob Melvin said I asked a good question. And it was something as simple as, what do you geek out on when it comes to catching? And he was like, that's a good question. And it's funny because sometimes he'll say it's a good question when it's like a silly one. But that one, I think he genuinely was excited to talk about catching. Because the other time he gave me, that's a good question, was when I asked him like what his ice cream to root beer ratio was in a root beer float, which is a great question too. Like, let's be honest. I'm never gonna, if I ever, get my Pulitzer, it's going to be because I asked an important question like that. And that's the thing too. And you have to ask it at the right time. Like the first question can't be like, hey, what do you geek out about catching? Because we were talking about Aramis Garcia. And you can just see, like, you just look at the manager, the way that he talks about certain things, or just whoever else it is. I'm like, he lit up when he said this word. And that's the thing I've noticed. I'm very observant with people. I read body languages really well. And that's what I miss about the clubhouse, is like bringing the fans into it to see like, oh, Chris Davis and Blake Trinan are like having some back and forth. And you wouldn't think that they would be the guys to get along, but they are. And that's why I asked him. I was just like, what, like, you've been doing this for 800 years, Bob. Why do you keep doing it? And I mean, maybe it is just money, but when it comes to Bob, that's not the case. And he even said, I have this reputation of getting ridiculously close to the players. And that's where I get excited. Like, cool, I can look up your slash lines. I can look at the horizontal movement on a Jesus Luzardo fastball, which is daddy for the record. But I want to know, before you throw that daddy pitch, like, what's going on in your mind? Or is it nothing? And that alone is a great story. He can just be like, nothing's happening in my mind. And then it's like, oh, that's interesting. And not everybody could just be like, oh, it's nothing. Cool, I'm going to tweet that out. It's like, well, no, why? And that's the thing too. Yeah, I like to throw like a fun little question every now and then, because I want people to read my work and not have it be the questions that everybody else on the beat is asking. And plus I'm a nerd about it too. I'm like, oh, I noticed that you were like sniffing your glove all weird. Like, what was that? Or you really like sunflower seeds stuck in your bubble gum while you eat it. Like, that's gross, but why do you do that? And it's just stuff that I notice. And that's what I get excited about.
Well, that's the cool things about that. There's so many things that happen on the baseball field that I probably did my entire career for whatever reason. I can't think off the top of my head, but no one would have ever asked me about them. But they're probably great stories if you did ask me about them.
Yeah.
So
and the thing about you is like, you have a very short MLB career, but I feel like because maybe subconsciously you knew it wasn't going to last forever, you kind of soaked all those moments in. So I feel like you guys can be way more observant like me. Like, yeah, you have to have the mentality. And you and I've talked about Robbie Grossman before, like being that even keeled, which is so difficult to do. That's why I firmly believe Steph Curry is very successful. But I feel like when you want to grab all those moments, because Mike Trout's and the Mookie Betts of the world, God love them, but no matter what they do, they're going to have a job, right? Even in 80 years from now, they're probably going to end up on the A's before they retire. That's how it works. But when you have a compacted career like that, that's when you get to be kind of that kid and walk onto the field and try to soak it up as much as possible, because perhaps you know that you're not going to have that longevity of a career. And that's why I like you guys the best, because you have the fun stories and you have that romantic kind of feeling about the game. And that's what I want to introduce to the fans, because you could watch Mike Trout go 4 for 4 every day, but I want to know like that guy who people aren't really like know about and stuff like that. Those are my type of guys that I love to sit down and talk to.
Well, yeah, I remember one time, and it gets said to you all the time, oh, well, at least you made it to the big leagues, right? You did. And you hear that constantly. But the first time that was said to me when I was talking about that Mike Trout story of me striking him out, and like, but actually I'd given up 43 runs already. It wasn't that cool.
We don't have to talk about that.
So like, it was like this whole thing that, I got booed off the field. I actually got a standing ovation, which is a great picture, but that was a sarcastic one. You had that whole thing. My parents are in the stands hearing probably the most heinous of things said to their son. Like, there are so many things that go around it that you can lose the fact that I was pitching at Fenway Park against possibly the greatest player of all time.
Yeah.
Against a guy, and then with Albert Pujols, a guy who was on my childhood wall, probably still is on the posters.
Yeah.
I haven't touched my childhood wall in a long time. That you can lose those things in there. But when you talk to fans and you actually converse with people, they will bring it out of you if you just listen to them. If you just talk to them and say, well, this, and their eyes light up when you're talking about striking out Mike Trout. They don't give two shits that you gave up 10 runs prior to that anymore. It means nothing to them. It means the world that they're like, well, what was this? I remember I was at the bar the other day, and these two guys came in, they knew who I was, and they were like, can you just tell us the sequence that you pitched to Mike? And I was like, guys, you have to realize that was a long time ago. I don't remember the sequence. I remember the pitch I struck him out on. Yeah. I don't remember that sequence because, it was a terrible game. But again, that romanticized, you saw them just like sit there with a dollar Miller Lite. We were selling dollar beers that day, dollar Miller Lite, and just wanted to sit there and talk to me about anything I could remember about pitching the big league.
I love that.
And it's cool. But again, a lot of guys, especially the Mike, not saying Mike's probably a great guy. Mookie's fantastic. I know that. Yeah. But they talk so much, they hear so much, they're around the game so much. These fans, it's one in 1 ear, out the other, to like guys like Mookie. But for, again, like you said, for guys like myself that had a cup of coffee in the big leagues, you listen to the fans more because it's cooler to you. It hasn't been dulled out for you where it means nothing. Yeah, I think that is something that, again, I think back. I look all the time about my stats sometimes and see the guys I pitched well against, see the guys I didn't. But Mookie's not doing that. Mike's not doing that. For
sure. And it's funny that you mentioned like the dollar Miller Lite, because my goal for my content, whether I'm on TV, doing a podcast, even reporting like an injury, I want somebody to act like they're having a dollar beer with me, or it's a blog or report. And they want to be like, I just want it to be like you and I are sitting here enjoying a beer and we get to talk about baseball. And that's so rare, especially in baseball. Because I feel like reporters, sometimes it's like, do you understand that you're getting paid to write about a fucking awesome game right now? Like, what, like, are you, like, and there's days where it feels like a job. And it's funny that you mentioned like the Mike Trouts and stuff, because sometimes I work with Dallas Braden so much and I forget that, he wasn't a poster on my wall because he wasn't in sync, but he also played such a pivotal moment in my career. And sometimes, even though we're just like shooting the shit, whether we're on the panel or doing a pregame hit, it's like, that guy's one of my heroes. And not only that, he's my friend now, but sometimes you need to stop and be like, that guy, and that guy is one of the reasons why you cover the A's right now. And he's not only your colleague, but you want to talk about a guy who can just tell you things about, like cool stories and stuff. And it's like, sometimes you do need to stop and like take a moment. And I hope the Mookie Betts of the world do that as well, and not just because he had this fat contract, but I feel like Mookie Betts is just so humble too. Like he doesn't want to have to sit like, well, let me tell you what I did. And it's like, sometimes he just wants to be like, I know I'm good, but like, I feel like he's like, he's a good family guy and stuff like that. So I hope one day those guys of the world kind of like, let it sink in. Like, that's pretty dope. That was a pretty dope career, man. Like, stuff like that. So
no, I listen, I couldn't agree more. And that's actually the original thought process behind my podcast. Was almost more of like a talk show of me having a beer with someone at my bar, because I was right in the beginning of the pandemic when we had to close the bar, and just sitting there having a drink, because some of my best conversations I've ever had with anyone, whether it's someone who's just a regular customer, whether it's Jared, whether it's whoever's at the bar, the best conversations come after about a drink or two in.
Oh yeah.
And you're saying things that you're just like, people would love to listen to this right now.
Oh yeah. And it's just, and that's the best part is like, well, that's actually how Rachel and I started out. Like Trevor was like, hey, let's try this with you two. And they poured us a glass of wine. And then we talked for 3 hours on our audition. It was supposed to be 30 minutes. We talked for 3 hours. And it reminded me, like, I also sometimes hate that because sometimes I'm such a good conversationalist that I forget that it's being recorded or they forget it. And even with my friends, like they'll like tell me things. I'm like, that's interesting. They're like, I don't know what happened, but I just told you my whole life story. And it's like, be careful, because even I feel like shit sometimes. I'm like, hey, like this is being recorded. Do you need me to cut that out? He's like, oh shit. Yeah. Can you just like not record that or just like, cut it out? And just because you have this cool flow, which is a beautiful characteristic to have. But then at the end of the day, I don't want them to get fucked over because I was too chill with them talking to me. And then sometimes you have to like remind yourself like, okay. And then I'll text my producer, be like, yeah, well, Java doesn't want that to be public or stuff like that. But it's also a good thing. Like, and it shows respect. Like I'll cut it out, no problem. And stuff like that. But I also love that it could just be like a flow kind of conversation. And I want that. I want it, whether I'm on a podcast with you or on TV or writing something, I want Jess to be the same person throughout. And because like I didn't once, and my mom was like, Jess, I saw you talk about AJ Puck and you sounded like a fucking asshole. I was like, why? And she's like, well, you were fine, but like I didn't recognize it was you. Like if you didn't tell me it was Jess Kleinshmidt, I would have had no idea. And I was like, oh, why? And she's like, you sounded like a reporter and it was just gross. I was like, fair, mom. And then you have to hear that. Like,
of course.
I mean, I don't want to say, oh, AJ Puck got hurt. That sucks. Like I have to be professional, but I also don't want to be like, yes, of course. Yes, sir, sirs. And like, calling Dallas Braden, Mr. Dallas Braden. Like, I'm not going to do that. So you got to find that balance.
First off, I would love if you said that sucks. That would be I would only watch your show for any baseball news ever.
I wonder if it was like, if there was like a facetious type of injury, like a Brett Anderson injury, which like he gets those weird, I could probably say, well, that sucks. And even Brett Anderson would be like, it does suck. Yeah. It's like, it's fine. Cause he gets weird injuries, like just like walking or existing, like, just kind of, or like just one of those guys who's just always like AJ Pollock, you're always like, don't breathe. Don't not. I feel like if he's on a fantasy team and you move him somewhere, he gets injured. Like it's just how it goes. But I think I'll try to do a Brett Anderson that sucks on live television just
Please
for
do.
you. Just
Please
for
do.
you.
Thank you. I would greatly appreciate that.
No problem.
But it's funny you talk about like the conversationalist. I mean, I've done podcasts myself where I've had to cut things I can't say publicly about things, like some things about my bar, some intricacies about the bar and how I run it or something that I had to be like, I can't say that.
Yeah.
But it's good. And I've always like when I do a podcast with you or I do a podcast with anyone, I always try to have like a few things to talk about, but I almost never make it to them. Like it's always when you have someone who's good at what they do and they're able to talk like yourself, you're able to kind of the place just kind of flows. Next thing you know, you're talking about things that you had never planned to talk about.
Right.
But those are the best podcasts. If I have to stick to my list of like things, I have a few things here that won't talk about one of these things, but you always. Those are the bad ones, the ones that you're sitting there like, okay, so what's the next one we talk about?
We're trying to find a segue. It's like, well, speaking of balloons, and you're like, what? It's like the dumbest thing ever. But that's the thing I struggle the most with is like, you do have a list because like sometimes you want to write off of it and your editor's like, well, you have to ask Buck Showalter about the time he intentionally walked Barry Bonds. And then, but I was talking to Buck Showalter about it, but then we talked about ghosting, like how ghosting works on texting. And I had to explain to Buck Showalter what it was like for me to get ghosted by a guy. And it was the funniest conversation ever. Like, cool. Like you talked about this historical moment about Barry Bonds. And then I was like, then I'll just like think of a funny thing. I was like, yeah, it's like the time that I got ghosted. And he's like, Jessica, what's ghosted? And I was like, oh, sit down. Let me tell you some stuff. Like it was just a funny conversation. So same thing, but segues stress me the fuck out. I hate them.
No, they're the worst. But I want to dive a little bit more into this Buck Showalter ghosting story. Okay. You mentioned how you got ghosted by a guy.
I know you're shocked I got ghosted too. No, and I don't remember why I brought it up.
I don't know either. That seems like an interesting segue.
I'll have to listen to it again, but I want to say something along the lines of, the phone. He was on the phone. in like the dugout, and he was like, I was trying to call somebody, but they weren't picking up. I was like, oh, did they ghost you? And I want to say it was a pitching change. Oh no, I think he was making the phone call to
the bullpen.
Log Bonds, yeah,
or
something. I don't know I don't know. But he was on the phone. I was like, oh, they didn't answer. Did they ghost you? And he's like, the first couple rings, yeah, they weren't giving me an answer. And so I said that, and then he didn't know what it meant. And then later on, he's like, oh no, he's like, if they ghosted me, I gave them a reason why. Because in real life, if ghosting happens, they don't tell you, they just cut you off.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, I made sure they gave me a reason and something like that. So I did teach Buck Showalter how ghosting worked, and I'd be terrified to ghost him, man. He'd be like, oh, you didn't answer my call, and then show up on my doorstep.
Give me a reason why. I want an essay on why you ghosted
yeah, exactly. Me. Give me a 500-word essay, or just write it over and over again. I will no longer ghost Buck Showalter.
Yeah, Buck Showalter would be the last person I would ever ghost. But
I would rather ghost Barry Bonds than Buck Showalter. Because Barry Bonds, I feel like, would move on. He'd be like, I don't give a shit. And then but Buck Showalter would be like, oh, okay.
Yeah, Barry Bonds. The one Barry Bonds story I have, which rings 100% true with what you just said, but would still give you like a little bit of a scare to ghost him, is we're at this Players Association thing, and my buddy, I don't know if you remember the name Ryan O'Rourke. He bounced around in the big leagues just for a little bit, lefty reliever.
Yeah, actually, yeah.
So he played with me in the Twins, and in the offseason, you get like this all expenses paid thing to Vegas. If you just go to the players' meetings, the Players Association meetings. So a lot of rookies go because that's cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
say less.
Exactly. So
if the lunch is catered, mom is there. Like no worries. Yeah.
So we go out to Vegas, and we go to this thing, whatever. And we're at this golf outing, and Barry Bonds is there. And I'm not saying a word to the guy. I've never met the guy, but we have to take this picture. And Ryan is in front of Barry Bonds. Ryan's a bigger guy than Barry is at this point. And you just see Barry walk around, go right in front of Ryan now, look straight at him in the face, and just turn around and like right next to him, like proving a point that you do not stand in front of Barry Bonds.
Yeah.
And Ryan just like, I've never seen him so scared in my life, just turns around to me and this guy, JT Shagwa, and was just like literally just runs away, like scampers away to the complete opposite side of the picture. And I wasn't even involved in this, and I was terrified of Barry.
Yeah.
I would never say a word to him.
I would have like thanked Barry for that. I'd been like, thank you for reminding me that you're the man. Like,
yes.
And I'm nothing.
Yes, he reminded.
I'm scared for Ryan.
Literally, I've never seen so many daggers. And listen, in my single days, I've had many daggers thrown my way through girls at the bar or whatever, they not like me or whatever have you. This was the worst. I felt it in my soul when he looked at Ryan like that.
Yeah, I would rather go through my shitty dating life 5 times than like
and be ghosted all the time.
Yeah. Like that's
on average in a year, how many times do you get ghosted, do you think?
Honestly, I mean, 2020 is kind of a wash.
Yeah, that's a wash.
But I'd actually be very surprised. Or I don't want to say like, oh, I'm great, but like I probably on a decent year, 3 to 4 times. But it's also like, it could either be like, we had a great conversation, a great first date. And sometimes I accidentally ghost them just because like nobody impresses me. Like, I'm just like, you bore me.
Yeah.
But last year, I think I got ghosted twice, and that's in 2020. One was really bad. But just because like we were pretty much dating, and he just up and stopped talking to me. And
that's aggressive.
It's very aggressive. It's more or less like, I hate that I get ghosted, but then I also remind myself like I've done the ghosting before.
Of course.
And it really sucks because I can't make any excuses. Like, all my work's online. So if I ghost them, I can't say like, oh, sorry. I could say I'm busy, but like if I can tweet something, I could text a guy back. Like that's just calling a spade. But I hate dating. It's like the absolute worst.
Well, I've
never been asked that question, actually.
Welcome to the welcome. Sorry, we're closed.
Yeah.
Now we're talking about. Listen, I'll tell you right. It wasn't on my list of things to talk
I'm
to
shocked.
about.
Let's see. How many times has she been ghosted?
I did many
Totally
ghosting.
brought that on. I talked about Buck Showalter being ghosted.
Yeah, listen, you did it, not me.
I did it. I segued myself. Yeah.
I did some ghosting back in the day, but it wasn't anything. I'm trying to. So there was a thing. God, I'm not proud of this, but there when I was a youngster, young pup, being a single guy. We used to have my brother worked in baseball as well, so he was a strength coach for the Diamondbacks for a good while, not the big league team, but in the minors. And
what team?
He went on through almost the entire organization besides AAA.
Oh, because I worked with the Aces a lot, so that's
okay. Yeah, he wasn't there.
Okay.
But so we used to talk about how like you would date, you would like talk to girls, and then like there would be a girl that it always happened right around the end of the off season. There would be this girl that you liked, but you had to go away. So it wasn't, and like you didn't really know how to break things off. Like it was awkward, like this whole bit. We had this saying, which again, I'm not proud of this, Jessica, but we had this saying that would be like, "Oh, don't worry, baseball season will take care of it." And
that's fair.
And it's essentially you leaving. And like the thing was always, it was never me. I never had to do anything, but I would leave and I'd still talk to them, but they would inevitably find someone else that's home. They would, because they're going out to the bars still. They didn't stop going to the bars. I did, but they didn't. No. So eventually they would always find someone else that would overtake me because I'd be gone. I'm gone for 8 months.
Yeah.
So it was my version of ghosting people, but in reality, I played the game so they would ghost me. Baseball's
a great wingman. It's a great.
It did me well for a very long time.
And I can kind of blame it on it too. Like, I'm sorry, baseball season started and I'm going to be busy until October, which is genuinely true. Like my life's a joke from now. You may not see me for the rest of until October, but it's at the same time, it's like, I'm at the point in my life where I'm not going to make that excuse anymore. I'm not saying you're older too, and you have a relationship and stuff. Mm-hmm. So it's like, I could have had a relationship during all that time, but like, I didn't really want one. Exactly. I've never been the girl like who, when I was younger, I never like had the Pinterest idea of a wedding. And now that I do have a Pinterest board full of wedding stuff. I don't even have any prospects, but I got to be honest, Pat, it feels amazing. I love being single.
Single is a great life. Sorry,
it's
Chelsea.
So good. And it's not like I don't want it, but it's like, I'm not impressed. And that's nothing against men, because there are amazing men out there, but I'm just like, if I can find a guy who makes me feel as good as a good day of work is, I'll propose to him. I'll propose to him on a Jumbotron. I'm not even kidding.
Wow.
I fucking hate Jumbotron.
Oh, they're the absolute worst. The absolute worst.
I liked them when I was 8, and then I grew the fuck up.
Yeah, exactly. I remember being like, "Oh yeah, I'm totally gonna propose to my future wife like on a baseball field
on the mound, and the wind will be blowing. There'll be doves for some gosh forsaken reason.
Yeah, I'll come in on a helicopter.
Yes.
Like the most ridiculous thing. If I ever did that, I have to punch myself in the face.
Alex Rodriguez will bring me the ring daintily.
But you just don't do that anymore. But the thing was me. I was a notoriously single individual. I loved being single. It was fantastic. You travel a lot. Baseball season, just like you. And now I'm kind of doing some media stuff. So I understand the next 8 months is a grind for anyone who. And I don't do it all as much as you guys do it. But it's a grind for me, let alone you guys. So it's like baseball consumes your life.
Oh yeah. And it's a very the industry. It's like, and here's the thing too, like the idea of me is cool, right? Oh, she's cute. She talks about baseball for a living, and she's like she's like an up and comer. I feel like I'm beyond up and coming.
Yeah, you're past up and coming.
Yeah. And so a month into it, they're like, oh, it's so like she's on TV. That's so great. And it's like, yeah, but like I'm off sometimes at 1:00 in the morning, and it never fails. A guy. And they're not jealous when I talk to like a baseball player anymore, but they are like, whatever, just like they go from being fangirly to like, I'm not even impressed by him. And it's like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like he went 4 for 4 and hit a walk-off grand slam. How are you not impressed with that?
It's man card stuff.
And cuddle with his gorgeous wife and his beautiful children. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
So it's always a weird dynamic, and they get very every time. It's always a month into it too, like exactly 4 weeks, and they're like, oh well. And so I'm trying not to think that it's my fault. It's just guys can't hang. I'm okay with that.
Well, that's the thing though. Guys are, notoriously insecure about other men. So you start talking baseball guys, especially specifically, you know them personally now.
Yeah.
Not like they're just like, oh, I watched them on TV. No, you know them.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's a tough game.
Even they're also intimidated by all the social media attention I get too. Because like I could be in a conversation with Buster Posey and they're getting more upset that Matt 045652137234 says, "You look pretty today."
It's a ridiculous Twitter handle, by the way.
It's such a bad Twitter handle, but that's my demo. What do you want? Like my demographic. Okay. Like somebody was like, "Jessica, look at all these Sims for you." I was like, "Hey, you know what? I have a demo. You have a demo. Just shut your mouth." So yeah, it's interesting. I wish I knew why. Like, I don't get it. Because then like after I get ghosted by a guy, he'll end up with somebody so plain and boring, which is safe. And it's so safe. And I totally understand. I totally understand that. And I'm not going to water myself down just to make somebody comfortable. Like I'm the girl who drops F-bombs and I have bro friends. I'm a bro myself. I just have like a different anatomy. So it's just, but I also hate the girls who like, I'm like one of the guys. I fucking am, dude. Like I'm just not, I don't want to lie, but I also hate the girls who are like, this is who I am. Like you can meet me in 20 minutes and know like that's who she is. But it's so that alone, I think kind of freaks guys out. And I get that, but I'm not going to be like, you're right. I should just be a little bit more like ladylike. No.
You gotta be who you are. The amount of times I have a firm rule in the dating world is you always listen to non-biased third parties, and everything when I'm talking to like some of my buddies, I guess you could say I'm biased since they are my buddies, but when I talk to them, they're just like, well, I got to do this, I got to do that. And I was like, no, you don't have to do anything.
Yeah.
You have to just. You want to be miserable, that's fine. You can go do those things. Like you can't turn into like I can't refuse to turn to a yes man. Like me and Chelsea get into our arguments at times because we're both, people that we're not going to back down.
Right.
But it's new for both of us that the other person won't just immediately be like, okay, yeah, you're right, my bad. Like
and that's good.
It is. It's healthy.
Yeah, it's very healthy. And then you see the other person's perspective. Yep. And then you can actually figure out how to have a discussion without it being an argument, which like Twitter is. And I wish I was more one-sided, whether it was politics or religion or sexuality or how everybody else is like viewing things. I won't. I want to know like why people think the way that they do. And that actually pisses off a lot more people than being on one side, I've noticed.
No, yes. I mean, Twitter in and of itself, it's the easiest thing to do to piss people off on Twitter.
Yeah.
We could sit here for the next 20 minutes and send out one tweet each, and we'd both probably get more hate than we have in the last year.
Yeah. And I could be like, and it's the thing, like, what's that one meme? It's like, I love oranges. Oh, so you hate bananas. And it's like, what?
Are you kidding me?
How dare you? First of all, bananas are great. I actually like them more than oranges. This is a whole different like conversation now. So and I've noticed that with a lot of people. Like I just want to know. And even when you want to be curious, people are like, why do you want to be curious? I'm like, well, if you see it a certain way and I want to spend time with you, like as a friendship or like maybe a possible partner or a business associate, I want to know why you think the way you do and not like why. It's like, no, I'm curious. Like maybe I'm not looking at something the correct way. And I feel like that's a beautiful thing to have in a relationship, any type of relationship.
For sure. The thing that if you immediately react to the question why in a negative way, as if I'm coming at you, which again, I can understand it's hard sometimes to put that through Twitter.
Yeah.
Like you can't, it's sometimes people
you can italicize things. You can't. Yeah.
Yes. So, but if you immediately, if you immediately act negatively to the question why, you already have an idea of why you might be wrong.
Yeah.
Because otherwise there's no reason to be upset. Like when someone questions me, I have to start thinking there. I'm like, wait, why could I be wrong? Yeah. And like, I don't know already, but I'm not going to immediately, fuck off.
Yeah.
Like this.
It's hard to not be reactive sometimes. Yeah. Instead of just like breathing and being like, okay. And that's happened in interviews too. And but then I'm like, even actually Brandon Crawford, I was curious about like this new stat, I think. And I was like, hey, like this new defensive stat. And he was like, well, I mean, I like the eye test. I don't like stats like that. And I was like, oh, okay, well then why? Like, no, tell me about that. And I think he was nervous that I was going to get upset, but no, I was really like, I mean, cool. Like I'm whatever. I geeked out over a stat. You're not going to see the same way. And then you remind yourself like, oh, Brandon Crawford's an old school guy. He likes the eye test. And then you have Buster Posey who wants to ban the shift. You're like, ooh, like tell me more about that. I disagree, but on certain aspects. But then even Buster, he like, I was like, oh no, I love the shift. But in the way that he described it, I was like, oh, interesting. Okay. And to hear Buster Posey say it'll be more exciting if we ban the shift was kind of like, oh. And Mama loves exciting baseball games. So I'm like, interesting. And I love a defensive play. I want to see Brandon Crawford diving over. Yeah, hell yeah. Don't move, Brandon. Don't move. I want to see you go for that ball that's for the third baseman. Let's go.
Yes. So the thing, and it's what's interesting about the shift though, is that I know a lot. I'm an old school guy myself. Like I am all for throwing at guys if they disrespect someone on the mat. I know a lot of people in the new age game don't like that.
I still do that. I throw things at people still. Yeah.
So I'm this. I like those things. The shift is kind of viewed as a new school thing, but to me, it's just an evolving game. It's not necessarily changing the rules or changing the unwritten rules of baseball. This is where people have stood on the baseball field because they thought that was the best way. That's where they should be standing in order to cover the maximum amount of space. The shift is just a new place of where people can stand to better make make the team better or whatever the case may be. I don't think it's necessarily new school versus old school. And I think a lot of people put the shift into that category. Right. And I don't necessarily agree with it. If Jackie Bradley Jr. can't hit the ball to the left side of the field, then why am I going to put anyone there? Doesn't make any sense.
Right. And Jed Lowry made a good point though. I feel like but then how do you measure it too? Like what's considered the infield, what's considered the outfield. And then when like bases are loaded. And even for me, when I was playing, like I didn't necessarily have a certain, without the scouting reports. And obviously, you're going to play against a lefty, but there's a certain spot. I was superstitious about it. That's where my cleat mark was. And every time I was at that cleat mark, I would be defensively beautiful. So if you want to look at that from a shift perspective, that's going to be difficult. Or even, sliding to second base, like that's a weird thing too. Like you don't really necessarily have to tag the bag, but you like also do. And it's like stuff like, so measuring it, that's what would stress me out. So I get where they're coming from, but it's like, if you want to ban the shift or not, you have to have something kind of written to say, what is this and what is that? But that's a humanistic thing too. Like, how are you going to tell? I would never be like, hey, Didi Gregorius, like chill, bro. You cannot move from this little circle. And then you're just messing up the game he's known his entire life. And then outfielders too. It's no different. Why wouldn't they have to shift? It just drives me nuts. And so I can see both sides, which once again, I hate. I wish I would just like, yes, let's do it. But I see what Buster's saying. I see what other people are saying. And even from a fan perspective, I get it. But I feel like that's way more controversial than like the DH situation, the shift, because you can see so many different sides. DH is like, well, pitcher's batting is weird. Like that's pretty much it. And maybe I like the longevity of a DH, situation. Obviously I'm an AL girl, but the shift, as I'm like researching it, I'm like, damn, dude, Buster's homie's got a point. Like, I'm just like, damn it. You go in with like closed-minded stuff and you're fucked just your entire life.
Yes.
And so that's the thing I love about my job is like, they'll be like, Jessica, that's not correct. I'm like, well, why isn't it? And not in like a why. It's just like, interesting. Why is that not true? And if you're lucky to work with, like Dallas does a beautiful job. Like I'll be like, hey, Chad Pinder is really diverse and like he can play anywhere. Will that hurt him? And he'd be like, well, what do you mean? And then we'll go into it and there's a good discussion. So I like that, but also it annoys me sometimes that I can't just be firm on things because I'm so broad in with my
friends. But I mean, you learn more that way. You have to be open-minded to doing different things different ways. In any industry. I mean, just we talk about baseball. You talk about me trying to run bars. If I only did things one way, I'd probably. Or if I was so firm, we actually had the guy that I actually bought out of this particular bar. He was always that way, and it held the place back. And, there was no social media presence. There were so many different things he could have been doing to help. And he just never did. And same thing goes in baseball. It's like you're learning about these different things.
Or how to adjust when things go awry,
Yes.
you know? And I feel like you have to have an open mind when things are bad, because you have to figure out different solutions, and you don't know the solution, the way to tackle the solution, if you don't know the different outcomes of how you got there.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what's kind of interesting too. I mean, it's a lot of, I admit when I'm wrong constantly. And I feel like that's a beautiful thing too. You can't fuck up all the time. Like that's not good, but you have to be like, okay, you're right. That was incorrect. And that's cool too. And I feel like that's little baby Jess is growing up. She admits when she's wrong. It's like rare, but it does happen.
Yeah, it's definitely rare. But I remember my brother used to always say the smartest guy in the room is or smartest woman in the room is the one that will say, I don't know.
Yeah.
You know, because it's so rare that everyone wants to. I catch myself sometimes doing now, be in meetings with people that are like older and more advanced in the places that I want to go with my life. And I'll sit there pretending like I know everything. I don't know. And some of the things I'm saying, and now I probably sound stupid in certain cases, because they're like, well, that didn't make any sense. If I just said I don't know, they wouldn't have cared.
Right.
Just act. But sometimes you try to put on an act, try to do all these other things, especially in the business world, I feel like. But can't win them all. But again, I'm very rarely wrong. I can't recall any time.
I can't either. I think I made a typo like 3 days ago. Humbling, if you will. But I left it up. You know why? Because I want to show the world that I'm not as perfect as you think.
You want to show your human side.
And it's difficult, because I have to, like, Barry Bonds and I talk about this all the time. It's just, there's them and then there's us who scare Ryan. That's what at the end of the day, I just want Ryan to be terrified of me. That's it.
Well, that's all you want.
That's all I want.
That's all you want. Well, listen, again, and sometimes, just talking things with you, I can already tell that typo was probably mentally done on purpose to try to help people.
I was like, oh gosh, okay. I know this red squiggly line's there, but I'm going to leave it.
Nothing's worse when that red squiggly line pops up and I don't know what mistake I made.
Or when it won't autocorrect to the word that you want. You're like, really? I'm the dumb one here? Come on. I meant to write sandwich. Like, what? What is posterior and how'd you get that? Like, I don't understand.
The worst. You double click on it and it says no suggestions.
Yeah, you're like, okay.
I fucked up that bad that you have nothing.
Throw it. Like, you're like, I'm out. Like, I can't with you. Like, I can't.
All of the work we've come across in the computers and how they've been able to change things for us immediately. They know exactly. You could type absolute gibberish and they get the whole thing correct. Yeah. But there's a couple of times in there they're like, yeah, bro, no fucking clue. Absolutely no clue what you're trying to say.
What my computer, the face it makes when I write Kleinshmidt. It's like, come on, that's not really your last name. It's like, you know what? Maybe it's touche. And then that's when my mind goes, I'm like, interesting. Maybe I am wrong. Okay. All right. Mm-hmm. There it is. Maybe my last name isn't Kleinshmidt. Who knows?
Maybe it's not. Maybe that's made up too.
Yeah. It's
maybe your stage name.
Living lies. Always. And they're like, hey, what do you want your last name to be? I'm like, I'm going to say Kleinshmidt. Like, that's where it goes. They're like, why? I'm like, I don't know. I want to piss people off. And also I want people to be exhausted when they try to forge my name.
Okay.
Like, I'm not doing this. Cool.
Is your signature difficult? Minus the fact that your last name is Kleinshmidt?
Yeah, but I have 2 of them, which is kind of obnoxious, but actually I have 3 now, because one I am getting asked for autographs, which is like weird. And that's just my first name. And then one is like when I'm too lazy to write out my actual signature, because I write J.D. Kleinschmidt on like the formal ones. Mm-hmm. But there's also one where it's like I'm rushed at Chipotle and I just want to get home. That's the I don't know what that is. It's I'm like, J, okay, it's cute. And then it's like, that's I'm like, oh, I'm a lady. No, I'm not. That's what it is.
Just the squiggly
line. I'm a lady. Just kidding.
Just kidding. I'm not. My name's Jessica Klienshmidt. Yeah, I'm by no means. I get ghosted a minimum of 4 times per year.
A minimum of 4 times a year.
One of them's Buck Showalter.
Yeah, totally. And that's on my baseball reference page, just ghosting.
Okay. That's fantastic. That's what she's known for, being ghosted or ghosting.
Yes. I mean, yeah, actually,
So if you get ghosted 3 or 4 times annually, what's that ratio to ghosting?
Oh, it's bad. I'm like, I'm so bad. Because I don't want to play the victim, but like, I'm an asshole. I am the absolute worst. because I'm on dating apps, of course, but like I don't.
Is that where you meet most of the guys now, dating apps, or are you an on-site person, on premise?
I prefer on premise, but I have actually like the last couple of guys like I've been. I don't want to say serious because I haven't had a serious boyfriend in forever. It's like I've been pursuing. I've met like on Instagram and Twitter, just because A, we interact. B, I know like I don't want to like brag, but like they know I'm me because of the verification and stuff. And plus, like you can know who I am easily. Just Google it.
Yeah.
MBD. But so it's that's been like the last couple of times, but Bumble has been a good one, but like also same thing. Like I literally will give them my number, which is stupid. I need to stop doing that. And then I just get bored because I developed this idea in my head of what I think that they are, and they're not. And I feel like they do the same thing with me, right? Like she probably comes home and she wants to talk about her fantasy team while she's wearing lingerie. I really feel like that's what guys think I do. When really I come home after a baseball game, I might watch MLB Network for 5 seconds, and then we're watching true crime or Bravo TV shows. That's what we do. So I just get annoyed. I'm going to say I ghost. This is going to sound really bad, like 12 times a year.
12 times a year. So you're going to 3-to-1 ratio, ghosting to ghosted.
Yeah.
Minimum, maybe even a 4-to-1. You're doing 3.5 times.
I didn't think there was going to be math today, but sure.
No, there's math. That's where we're at. 3.5 to 1 is your ghosting to ghosted ratio.
It's really bad. And it's not like we get like serious or anything, because like the last guy I was talking to, I was not interested. And I straight up told him, I was like, hey, like I think you like me a lot more than I like you. And I feel like, yeah, it's just that's just rude for me to ghost on that situation. But usually it's like if we have a good date. First dates are always great for the most part, but then the second one always goes to shit because like they're fake on the first date. And
of course,
so after the second or third date is when I usually am like, nah. So it's bad.
Are you a dinner date in the first date, or are you drinks?
I prefer drinks on the first date or coffee. Dinner is like honestly, I'd wait till the third date for dinner. First date's cool, but like I'm a firm believer men should pay on the first date, period.
Men should?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm big on that myself. I
went on a date recently. I drove an hour to see him, and I did the thing. I'm like, do you want to split it? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, ew, fuck you, dude. Okay. Like, oh, you said yes? See ya. As I drove an hour.
Yeah, that's aggressive. I still we're over a year now. I still don't let my girlfriend pay.
Yeah, and that's a good thing. That is a good thing. And
yeah, Papa Light taught me right.
Yeah, and I don't mind doing it. I like that I'm independent, but I also am a lady at the end of the day.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, you have the ability to pay, and my girlfriend has the ability to pay. I just, you try not to, and then she'll make up for it, like doing so all of a sudden she'll buy me something or something, just trying to
right. Surprise you with coffee or something like that. Like I'm a firm believer in that, and like I spoil the fuck out of my friends. I'll just randomly send them, something, and Rachel and I are the same way. Like she randomly the other day sent me like a gift card to Buffalo Wild Wings because she knows what Mama likes. And I'll send her Starbucks gift cards because that woman can drink 8 cups of coffee, no problem.
Oh, really?
And I thought
per day?
Yeah, honestly, I'm not even kidding.
Dear God.
So much coffee. And so Liam Hendricks, same way. Every time I would text him, it'd be 2:00 in the afternoon and he'll be on his 6th cup of coffee because he doesn't drink alcohol because he's got a condition with his liver, which is, he was considered high risk. And we found that out last year. That's my favorite question. How many cups of coffee? He has to think about it. He's like, 6. And I'm like, it's 2:00 in the afternoon. Insane. That's like, because when we had Fan Fest, like all the A's had like a chaperone, if you will, to make sure they make the rounds. And one of his guys would just go out and get him Starbucks. That was his only job.
Really? Yeah.
And I don't think they paid him enough. Like that's probably 7 different trips to Starbucks.
What would you prefer, coffee or alcohol?
Coffee.
Really?
100%.
I like coffee. So I drink coffee, water, alcohol. That's the only things I drink, really.
That's pretty much what I drink too.
How do you take your coffee?
I'm just because like now that I'm old, I'm like, oh, dairy like really fucks with my stomach. I hate admitting that. But it's like usually almond milk or almond or anything like that with a little bit of sweetener. But like, and it's weird because I don't even have like an actual drink at Starbucks. I like will create it in the app and be like, this is what I'm in the mood for.
Yeah.
But I don't do black coffee. I cannot do that.
Oh,
I respect the hell out of people who can, because I remember your drink. It's not difficult.
No.
But it's just, but I have my set things. I can do sometimes just creamer, but that's like if I'm drinking it at home, it's creamer and sugar.
I was once on a date. This was years ago, and we had coffee. I'm a big, like, I start off my dinner with a scotch, and then I usually do, because I like steakhouses, so I'm usually doing red wine with dinner, and then I'll finish with either an after dinner drink and then coffee, or just straight to coffee, depending how much drinking I want to do. And I did coffee at the end of this date, and this guy, my waiter, didn't hear what I wanted, and he's like, really? And then I said that I wanted my coffee black, and I was like, yeah, and I said, yeah, I'm a black guy, and I didn't realize both my date at the time and the waiter just started laughing uncontrollably, and I was just like, what, you guys don't like coffee
fine,
black?
I'll do cream and sugar, like, chill, bro. Like,
like this is normal. And they were like, no, you just admitted to being an African-American gentleman. And I was like, okay, so I'm the asshole. Understood.
I feel like that's a compliment. Like, that's a good thing. But I also like how I'd probably hear that too. Like, good for you. I just want to know what's in your coffee, but I'm really glad that your ethnicity is important in this context.
Yes. Well, yeah. So
next time I'm at dinner, I'll be like, yeah, I'm a quarter Filipino.
Just so you're aware.
Just so you're aware, like that.
Let's get this off the table.
Yeah. I know what you're thinking, and yes, I am a quarter Filipino. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bring more bread, thanks. Like, I'm an adult. Like, bring more bread.
Yes.
Not just like 4 pieces. Like my 30s. Let's be honest.
Yeah, well, you came with them all, but I ended up ghosting that girl. Fun fact.
Well, you gave her a funny moment, so that's good.
And she made fun of me at dinner. So
how do people react these days with ghosting? Because I feel like I haven't done it in a while, which is, okay, it's been like 2 weeks. Wow, Jess, you're an asshole.
You haven't done it in a while, which you then immediately found out after thinking about it in your own head that it's been 2 weeks. Is that a while to you?
A lot has happened in 2 weeks, Pat. So
wow.
I think we can admit it, right?
You should be able to admit it.
That right these days you don't know times, but yeah, no, I ghosted him and it was.
What was the reason?
Same thing. I just wasn't into it.
Yeah, that happens. That's not. Honestly,
and I'm a very honest person, but I also feel like, here's the thing though, on both sides, I feel like you have the right to ghost people, especially if they're not your best friend, your dad, your mom, whatever. But depends. The other guy who was super sweet, and I told him I wasn't interested. It's because we were talking for 2 weeks, and I have that. There was obviously back and forth. This guy, I was just nah, no.
I'm good.
I didn't even save his number in my phone.
Oh,
I don't do that anymore. I do not save people's numbers.
Why do you give your number out so much?
I don't fucking know.
You gotta stop doing that.
I know.
The move, at least move back in my day, was give them your Snapchat.
Oh my God. That's disgusting. I hate that. When somebody's Snapchatting me, I'm like, oh, so you cheat. Okay.
Oh,
okay. But I should just give them my Instagram a little bit more. That's what I need to do. But you're right. I need to stop giving my number. Because I actually haven't told many people this. When I leaked the Tatis monetary value, my number got out, and I got anonymous messages, anonymous texts saying that I was a whore and I am a joke to this industry. And I'm like, nobody's calling John Heyman a whore for leaking.
No, he does get quite a bit of hate on.
He's getting hate, but nobody's calling him a whore. That's for sure. And so it's just kind of like that. So that's when I probably, and then of course I gave out my number 3 other times after that. But you're right. I need to stop doing that. I need to stop arguing with children in Instagram comments too.
Yes, you should probably stop doing
that. That was my favorite tweets you ever sent me. You need to lock that shit up. I just felt like you came up to me on the mat, Jess, get your shit together, dude.
Lock it up.
Lock it up. And I'm just I don't know. He said I was stupid. Jessica, he's 15. Yeah, Jessica, stop. That's where I died. I pictured just being you're embarrassing me. Stop.
I know you. You can't be doing this.
But here's the thing though. You know that rule, pick on somebody your own size? I'm 5-0. So these 12-year-olds don't know what's about to hit them.
It's true. It's more for physical altercations, not on Twitter.
Okay, well then nobody told me that. Right. Cool.
Well,
Stop my number out and stop picking on 12-year-olds. Well, it's 2021. I'm about to be a new reborn, if you will.
Reborn, yes. I have a guy here. Do you know the guy by the name of Giraffe Neck Mark? He's a big Mets guy, so you might have come across him, but probably not that much.
Yeah.
He does the same stuff, and like me and him became friendly, and I'll see him he'll do the quote tweets with guys and being like, he didn't say like fuck off, but the tone of the tweet that he's sending is fuck off to this guy. Like, Mark, what are you doing? Who cares about this guy?
I mean, I get that way too. Like it sucks because I actually developed a really good following for dunking on people. But now that I'm a journalist, I can actually dunk on them just with facts, which is actually kind of cool. Especially if like just yesterday, I went on TV to talk about Buster Posey and Aramis Garcia. And Aramis Garcia quote said, Buster Posey is a Hall of Famer on and off the field, which doesn't necessarily mean he's going to be in the Hall of Fame. But when you think of a Hall of Fame overall player, how it should be anyway, for the most part, it's you immediately think of numbers, plus he's a good guy. I don't think that's always the case. I do believe that Kurt Schilling should be in the Hall of Fame despite what he's doing, and same with Barry Bonds. But
he lost his mind.
Yeah. But at the same time, I think it's a bonus if they're a good guy. And I understand that. So this guy was like, I just saw you on TV in a commercial. First of all, it wasn't a commercial. It was like, I'm not a commercial girl. It was during the actual Warriors game, post game. And he was like, why did you say Buster Posey was a Hall of Famer? And it was like, cause I was reporting what Aramis Garcia told me to say. Not told me to say, but when I asked him about
say
Buster
this.
Posey, yeah, you're going to say this, Jessica. All right, Aramis, what do you say? Cool. And so I did that. And then he even apologized. He's like, I'm so sorry, like that. And it's just like, it just got me mad. Like, what do you think I'm doing? Just making shit up? Like, yeah. So
my one. So I'm a big fan of going back at some of these 15-year-olds. By the way, they're exclusively 15-year-olds, not any other age. But going back at some of these 15-year-olds, but in the most immature fashion that I could possibly do. And I did one time. I called
someone like a butthead or something.
Butthole. I called him.
Yeah, that's disgusting behavior, Pat.
So here's the thing. I called him a butthole, and then I got a lot. People enjoyed that. Yeah. And then a lot of people. And then someone that follows me, I guess they had my Twitter notifications on, so anytime I tweet, and they got a notification on their phone saying Pat Light just tweeted butthole. So he tweeted it at me, the screenshot. I kept the screenshot and put it as my Twitter banner.
I was just gonna say that's a cover photo,
no doubt. And I had just started dating Chelsea. And her dad did a little research on me. And he goes, just so you know, he tweeted butthole. So this is the type of guy that you're
talking about. The worst.
It wasn't bad. It wasn't bad. But it could have been better. It was actually the same time that Jared was nicknaming me Patty Dix. Mm-hmm. So it was, this guy's nickname is Patty Dix. He tweets butthole. I hadn't met him yet. So it's like, this is the guy you're about to bring home to meet your family. Right. Like, no, I promise he's nice.
Yeah, there are way worse men out there. That's for damn sure. But it's funny. Like, I love that that's what popped up for you.
It is. And I mean, listen, he likes me now, as far as to my understanding. He could be lying.
Does he?
I did tweet butthole.
You did. You were the guy that tweeted butthole. I like how you were like, you told me like Jessica lock it up. You're like, okay, so I only exclusively text 15-year-olds, right? And I was like, what the fuck? Do as I say, not as I do, Jess.
Yeah. No, listen, I have a good time, but I like to, if you're going to troll me, I want to troll you back. That's my thing. And I'm going to do it so immature.
Yeah.
The most ludicrous thing that you heard in 4th grade.
Right.
That's when I'm going to tweet back at you if I'm in the mood to.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Butthead's my favorite one though. I love calling people butthead. And I have to like hold myself back a little bit just because work, like I don't feel like they'd be comfortable with me cussing and stuff like that. So it's difficult. But every now and then I'll text my boss like, is this a bad word? And it's always like, yeah. I'm like, okay.
Okay. All right, sure. Butt heads off the table. Okay.
Art it is.
Well, Jess, I appreciate you coming on. This was fantastic. Like I said, I didn't get to anything that I wrote down.
That's awesome.
Which
What were the things that you were going to ask me?
Huh?
What were the things that you wrote down?
Let me reopen the book.
In your notepad, sir.
My notepad. I'm a to-do list guy. Are you a to-do list?
I am too. I'm obsessed with lists.
Are you writing or are you on the phone?
I have to write.
I must write as well.
I write it, and sometimes I'll do a backup in my phone just because like I have such a short attention span sometimes, but I color coordinate and all of the things. Yeah.
One dude responded to the tweet today saying that you, so I was going to talk to you about your Chardonnay and wings obsession. Apparently you have one of those.
Oh, I did have Chardonnay.
What's your drink of choice?
I mean, like a vodka soda.
Vodka soda with a lime.
But when I make them at home, it's vodka and it's Tito's always because I love Tito's. And it's usually like, I don't know, like one of those ice drinks. I like bubbles a lot. Or so I'll do like a vodka lemonade with like soda water because I love bubbles on my tummy. But for the most part, the wine that I've been drinking lately is I'll do Pinot Noir. I love Pinot Noir. And then I randomly had Chardonnay the other day, and I remember the reason why I tweeted a photo of me eating a chicken wing and drinking Chardonnay is everybody's like, she tweets these things. It just sounds like she's trying to be cool and it's not actually who she is. And it's like, I used to be a fake as fuck person on social media. I'll have to send you a clip of my first YouTube video I ever made. I sounded like I sounded like a douchebag, but in the woman version.
Okay.
And it was just like me trying to be sexy, but really I looked like a dumbass. And I'm like, this is why I got bullied on the internet. This makes a lot of sense. Like, okay, like I understand, like I would have joined you. Yeah. And then as time went on, like I was tweeting stuff out and people were like, that's not what you're actually doing. As like, why would I don't have it. I don't need to lie. I love who I am. There's no reason to. But then later on, I was like, they're like, she doesn't actually do this. I was like, no, I was literally sitting there eating chicken wings, drinking a glass of Chardonnay. And it was pound cake pound cake Chardonnay and like buffalo chicken wings. So
on the bone, off the bone.
I'm a bone on girl, but we've actually had this conversation because like I love chicken wings so much, but they're so difficult to eat like in the middle of a work day. So I'm open to boneless wings. And I know they're not actually boneless wings. They're just chicken nuggets covered in sauce, but I know that's what you refer them to. So I saw it was JJ Watt who tweeted out a photo of his wife on their wedding day eating chicken wings. And everybody sent me this clip because naturally that's me when I grow up. And I was like, yeah, but on my wedding day, I'm gonna have to eat boneless wings because like no matter what, the chicken wings fall out of my fingers.
Okay.
And all of that. So we've already had this discussion, but it's buffalo wings and Chardonnay actually go very, very a good buttery Chardonnay. I was very impressed like with myself.
Interesting. Yeah. Not a Chardonnay person. I don't drink wine except for red.
I like red a lot better, but I randomly wanted a Chardonnay the other day.
Yeah, I mean that's fine. Do you put it on ice?
Ew,
or you just put it like in the refrigerator and make it cold?
Right.
You got to serve it cold, right?
Jesus. Yeah, but ice melts and it waters down the wine.
I understand what ice does. Yes, thank you.
Bartender, come on, please. But another fun thing that I saw was you could freeze grapes and then put them in your
that's fun.
Because when it melts, it's not going to water it down. It's just going to be
grapes.
Yeah. And you do that with iced coffee too. You can put coffee in ice. Get yourself on Pinterest. You learn a lot.
You see that there's the new things too that are like ice cubes, like covered in like plastic wrapped ice cubes, and then like you fill them up, but they so now, or you don't have to fill them up. They come filled up. There's no holes in them, and then you freeze them, and now you can put ice in drinks and it wouldn't water down your drink.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah, because my ice. Ugh. And then ice melts so fast these days. It's weird. I don't know if I'm doing something wrong.
Ice melts faster these days. Is that what you're claiming? I want that on record that ice in 2021 is melting faster than normal times.
I can't believe that that's the soundbite you're going to use to promote.
I got plenty of sound bites for ghosting. This is going to be fantastic.
Yeah.
Miranda's going to have a field day when I send this to her.
She's going to love it. That's for sure.
All right. Well, the only other things I was going to talk to you about, there was one guy on the A's. I don't know if he's still on the A's that I played with that I was curious about. Frankie Montas.
Yeah. He unfortunately though, he has COVID at the moment. So
I heard.
He's going to be delayed.
Does he still throw 100?
I don't. Yes.
He used to, but I feel like he dipped when he went to the A's.
He for sure did. I'm trying to think if he did it in a game.
Oh, okay.
I feel like I would have written about that. I want to say yes. I'm pretty sure.
That guy had an arm like
and a great guy too. He's so sweet.
He's so funny. I love that guy.
He's great. Yeah.
I played with him in 2013.
Good dude.
With the A's. Oh, not the A's. With the what team was I on? The Red Sox. That was in the Greenville Drive, low A Greenville Drive.
Wow.
Yeah, he threw fire.
Yeah, no, he's great. He's that resting smiley face. I love those guys.
Mm-hmm. But and then we were talking about the Tatis contract, which I don't really want to talk about.
Yeah.
We were talking about this free agent year. I actually have a buddy of mine that might be not playing anymore, which is unfortunate. But I think it has a lot to do with this kind of year and how crazy it's been in the free agent market. Yeah. And then your thoughts on if baseball is actually losing steam, which again I don't really want to talk about. So I'm very pleased where this podcast went. This is by far, I would say, I won't say it's better than Jared's because Jared will listen and yell at me.
Yeah, for sure.
But you're up there. You're gonna be one.
And vice versa. You were one of my favorite interviews for Bach Talk as well.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, I appreciate you coming on, Jess. I'll have to bring you on in 5 more episodes for episode 69.
Or just use a sound, at very least use one of my sound bites.
I will. No questions asked.
That's
no
what I need to be a part of that episode, or I'm going to be
it's
upset.
mandatory.
Career
Mandatory part of that episode. Huh?
Career goal of mine is to be a part of that 69th episode.
Listen, I can make that happen. I have the power.
I covered a no-hitter, so.
So there you go.
Against Joey Votto too, which was really funny.
That is really funny.
Yeah.
But listen, again, I appreciate you coming on. I'm sure we'll discuss you coming on again, and then I'll see you in the Twitterverse as I always do. We have a long 8 months ahead of us.
Oh gosh, we sure do.
Yeah, if you're on the East Coast, I got a couple bars here that you should come check out.
I will. I want to drink all the dollar beers.
Nah, you don't come during that. You come because the dollar beer is like 5 to 8. You don't want to come during 5 to 8. That's
yes, I do.
All right.
100% when I want to go.
See you there at 5 p.m. sharp.
I'm like open, or like it's 4:59. I'm like, I'm not falling for this. I'm waiting until 5 because I know you're gonna fucking charge me $2 for that beer, and I'm not doing it.
The dollar beer crowd, it's all college kids, and it's a pain in the ass.
Yeah,
and it's all college kids and Jessica Klienshmidt.
Yeah, I'm like, how you doing, fellow kids?
Fellow kids, wow, you really
think I'm one of them too. They're like,
you're so hip.
this little guy. I'm like, thank you.
Well, you're the same size.
Yeah.
But thanks for coming on. I can't wait for Dollar Beer Night with you. That would be fun. We'll vlog that because I can only imagine.
That's actually a really fun idea. I'm down.
I can only imagine where that will go. So yeah, come out to the East Coast, catch a Yankee game or something, Yankee A's, or Red Sox A's, and we can go to a bar with me, you, and Jared. That'd be even better.
I love that idea. We definitely have to vlog that.
Yeah, that's man. If we put us 2 or us 3 in the same bar, it would be mandatory vlogging.
100%. Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for coming on, Jess. I will hopefully see you soon, and I'll see you on Twitter. Guys, thanks for listening to episode 64 of Sorry We're Closed. And I hope this will be released on tomorrow, released Monday. So I hope you guys have a great week, and I'll see you Thursday. Thank you so much for listening to the Sorry We're Closed podcast. Go subscribe to our email chain over at thepatlight.com and follow us on all social media. Until next time, guys, I'll see you at the bar.
Sorry, we're closed.